previously, I still do get to know you activities because things might have changed over the summer. We haven't seen our students since March 16th, so I want to catch up with them. I want to know what they've been doing. First day packets. In my first day packets, I'll always include an information sheet, and I realize we can get the information out of eSchool, but sometimes when I need just to find a quick phone number or something really quick, it's easier for me to go through my binder that has all my students alphabetized in it than to have to try to log into eSchool and go to which page and all that. So I do the first day packets, has an information sheet. It has a page that asks about allergies. And I do that for every class I teach, because if you have a student that has a severe peanut allergy, some of them are even airborne allergies. And if you happened to have that in your room, they could get sick. So I do ask that. Even though my nurse has it on, is supposed to have it on file, I want it for my records in my classroom as well. I also put a letter, and some of the letters I make, depending on what class it is, some of the letters I have my parents sign and send back. But it's going to say whatever class it is. So for this class, I might say that we're going to be talking about political issues. We may be talking about, we'll be talking about, what is the word? Controversial issues. For example, in my parenting lifespan development class, that's going to be hard to get used to say that. I put in there that we do watch birthing videos, that we talk about STDs, all that, because some parents do not feel like they want their student learning that at school, even though they've probably already learned it way before them. So I include all of that in there. A lot of times I will include a syllabus to the parents, just so they can kind of see what's going on. This year I will have copies of every bit of that placed in my Google Classrooms for every class I teach, because if we have to go blended, I want the parents to be able to see them. And then obviously we go over our rules and procedures. I think those are going to be expanded this year, because we're going to have to talk about the not touching each other and the disinfecting and the keeping your masks on and all that. So that's what I cover the first couple of days. My principal does not like us to give work, like actual homework. This is for 50 points, the first 2 or 3 days of school, because our schedules might change for whatever reason. So I normally hold off on actual graded stuff until after the first week of school is over. I don't know if your schools have a time frame of changing schedules for high schoolers or not, but ours is, 4 or 5 days. So I normally wait until the second full week to start FCCLA stuff. So even though this is a level 3 class, they should have already heard everything about FCCLA multiple times. I still do a review. I still go over it. I have a PowerPoint that I use, and I change it every year based on how information changes. So I'll put the national theme in there. I put our district theme. I put our state theme. I put dates in there. I put the star events that each level of student could compete in is in there. They have a creed quiz, and then I start my membership drive at that time as well. So that's how I do the FCCLA. And I know it's not even in our standards for this class, but I feel like it's important that we go back over it. If you had a student move into you, maybe their advisor somewhere else didn't go over it as well or as much. So that's what I do. The creed quiz has been included in the resources folder for you. Feel free to use it. It does not have a word bank with it. If you have students that need accommodations, it doesn't have that. I noticed it this morning when I was showing my co-advisor, so I've got to go back and put that on there. But feel free to use any of the resources that I have shared with you. And like I said, I will be adding a bunch more. Whoops. All right, so this next slide is where I went out of order from the standards. Since it's an election year, a lot of your seniors, this is going to be their first time getting to vote. in an election. And I don't know if y'all keep up with politics or anything or your opinions, and I mean, I'm not here to talk about that, but I think it's important that we do teach our kids about voting, and it's a responsibility of ours, and help them learn how to get registered to vote. Maybe their parents aren't registered to vote and things like that. So I feel like it's important that we teach this before the elections come up. And if I were teaching this, before I found out I wasn't going to get to teach it, I had already talked to my civics teacher, and we had collaborated, and we were going to do a mock election for our school. But now that I'm not getting to teach it, that's out the door. So standard 4 is exploring the impact of community relationships. I did not cover the whole standard right here on this part. I will go back and finish the rest of it later. But so this is talking about your individual rights and responsibilities of being a good citizen. And if you see like the bolded words, that is what I feel like should be vocabulary words. When you get the CTE playbook, which should come out before school starts, these will be listed as vocabulary words in there in the vocabulary section for you. So this is the order I would teach these in. And then I have given you different things I would do. So the blue ones are the links, and I'm going to see, I don't know, it might mess us up. Can y'all see that page? Yes, Kristen, are you, okay. So that link, the Bill of Rights, takes you to this particular page. You could pull this up and show it to your students. If you click on the First Amendment, it tells you what it is, so forth and so on. I just thought that was a good one to put in. And then this next one is all about, whoops. It shows you in comparison, the rights and responsibilities. And, you know, a lot of your students, they don't know what their rights are, and they don't know what their responsibilities are, especially if they haven't taken civics yet. And that's normally a senior class now, so we can overlap there. This one that says patriotism PowerPoint, I did share it with you guys. You are going to need to tweak it because I put things in there about my school. So when it says demonstrate an understanding of acceptable etiquette for symbols of organizations, so I did include FCCLA. I put stuff about my school. I think it's important, y'all may think I'm crazy, but I think it's important that our students know the alma mater for their school. So I make them learn that. They have to learn the school colors. I mean, that's kind of obvious what your school colors are when you get there, but they have to learn the school colors, different things. If your community is really big and known for something, hold on just a second. I think there's a lot of people wanting in, maybe. No. Okay. If there's something in your community, so like if, let's say I lived in Montgomery County and I taught at Mount Ida School, they're really big and known for quartz crystals. So that would be something that I would want to put in there because that's a symbol for that town that, you know, kids don't often understand. And then state or nation. So I've put different things in there about the flags and things like that. So that's where this PowerPoint comes in. If I were going to teach this, I would ask my county clerk to come speak to the students. And if they can't come, maybe they could just do a Zoom with them to talk to them about voting and helping them get registered to vote. And I put the voter registration link in. So this is the application forms, Spanish, English, different things on it. Now it's going to work. So what is required to register, identification, things like that. And again, a lot of our students don't know this because their parents aren't registered to vote. Then it talks about the federal requirement for selective service. So our students, our male students, when they turn 18, have to register for selective service. So I put the link in there for selective service for you. And it tells who needs to register. And believe it or not, even if your student has some physical disabilities or mental disabilities, they still have to register. My nephew is 100% dependent upon someone to care for him. They feed him, they bathe him, they diaper him, everything. And before my sister could get his state ID for his disability, he had to register for selective service, even though there's no way he can serve in the military. So that's something that a lot of people, I was like, no, he didn't. And she's like, yes. And so when I was reading it, yes, he did have, that was true. So some other guest speakers you might have come would be like the mayor, especially if there's going to be a mayor's race that year, the sheriff, any other elected officials could talk to you about, you know, anything voting wise or whatever. This link right here that says I side with, Tessa Bunch shared this with me. And so it talks about domestic policy and economic issues. And if you go to the I side with, excuse me, you can see the different candidates. Now this is national, okay? But you can see the candidates and you can see like what they stand for, what their platforms are, things like that. So I did put over here to research the stance of elected officials, and I think that would be something good. The researching the Our Kids WIC SNAP free and reduced lunch program. A lot of our students, especially the ones that are more privileged, I guess you could say, they don't know what Medicaid is. They don't know what Our Kids is. So if we explain to them, you know, they may need it sometime in their life. I had no clue what Our Kids was or Medicaid was until I got pregnant at 21, and my mom's like, well, you don't have insurance, you need to go do this. Because I had always had health insurance with my mom. The government can also help get housing and daycare assistance for them. I definitely didn't know what WIC was, so my mom explained it to me, and I went in and applied, and it was great. It helped me a lot. SNAP benefits, a lot of our students have no clue what that is because they don't qualify for free and reduced lunches. So that's something important to share, you know, what those are. If you qualify for free and reduced lunches, you can probably get SNAP. And then libraries, like your public libraries, I guess people still go to them. I don't know. We have one in my community, but I don't go to it because I don't read. That sounds bad. If I do read, it's on my Kindle, but the students don't know that that's out there. So, and then I went back to the regular order. So this is where it talks about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. And there's been a lot of stuff put in the resources. Now, there's not a lot on this because I didn't go back and add them all to this presentation. But there's so many different things that you can do to teach Maslow. And it is important for your students to understand. So look through that resource folder for it. If you like Pinterest, there's tons of ideas on Pinterest about Maslow as well. This is the Who's Who Among Classmates worksheet that I made. It is based on Maslow. So what I would do is I would have a copy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs hanging up in my room somewhere so they could look at it. But they would just go around the classroom and ask these questions. Now, yes, we're going to social distance with our masks on somehow in my classroom. But if I am allowed to do this with the students walking around with their masks on, we're going to do this face to face. If not, we're going to do this digitally, and we're going to send each other messages. And then at the bottom, there are some analysis questions, and we're going to compare what we have in common and what we have different within our classmates. This is my example of the Maslow's activity that I had on there. So my students are they're gonna do this in my other classes too. Okay, so these resources are being used in my other classes as well. But I would give them this blank hierarchy of needs, and the assignment says they have to put four pictures per level. I didn't put 4 pictures because we all know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so I done it just as an example for you guys. But you would put 4 pictures of each level, and if you can identify the correct picture, then I know you have learned what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is about. If your school is not one-to-one, you could still do this. You could just have them to draw a triangle and draw pictures or cut and paste. There were 2 filing cabinets in my closet that were locked and I could never get into. And so I had them to drill the locks out, and I found probably 200 magazines in there. And so I was talking to my the 7th and 8th grade FCSI teacher, and I was like, do we want these? And she said, yeah, we want these. And so I was like, okay, so we can use magazines. We don't have to do it digitally. Some of your students are not comfortable copying and pasting pictures. So we could do, hands-on with the ones that we needed to. Or if they were in ISS, I could have them do magazines or whatever in ISS or something like that. The next one is about your genetic factors, and Kurt Lewin with nature versus nurture. This is a very controversial topic. It has been every time I've taught it anyways. You could have debates about this all day long. So I would present the information. We're going to create a class list. I love to make class lists. So we would create a class list of positive and negative character traits. We're going to research parenting styles. I can tell you when you get the playbook, this one has tons and tons and tons of resources and links added to it. It has has different links for videos to show the styles of parenting. And then it has an example of the quiz that you could do for it. So ignore that part. I mean, you can choose different shows if you want to, but I thought I chose things that everyone would have had knowledge of. Personality types. This one also has had a lot of stuff added to it on the CTE playbook, but this gives you the link, and if you don't like this personality quiz, you can choose another one, but this is a free personality test, and when you take it, it gives you all your results, and my students take these, and then I do not have them print them because it prints like 16 pages, so I have them to jot down information or maybe email me their results, and then we compare them. And I do this with them as well because they like to see if what they feel like my personality is the same thing as what the personality test says. And then there's quizzes, little activities. Most of this class for me would be pretty much what you could consider project-based, but they're not huge projects. They're they're things that can be done in a small amount of time so far, or could be done at home if they don't have a lot of resources at home. I do live in a very rural area, and a lot of our students don't have internet access and things like that. So on the Who Am I activity, this could be done as an icebreaker for the first day of school. You wouldn't even have to use it in this particular lesson, but I give my students, I've done this before, give them a note card, make sure they all have the same color of note card. That way their neighbors can't say, oh, she had pink and he had green. Their names should be written on the exact same side of the card that they write their traits. So they're going to write 3 personality traits about themselves. When everyone's done, they're turning you into you shuffle them up, and then you read out the 3 traits and have them to guess and see if they can figure out who it's for. So that's just something could be done as an icebreaker or for this particular section. The Who Am I collage, this has been included for you as well, along with an example. Now, my example that I shared with you is not what I would have my students to do. I was trying to get it to where you can see the bottom, but I don't know. The example I done 1 slide per category so that I could give my students a better idea, honestly, a better idea of who I am. For them, they get 1 Google slide. And it has to be pictures that demonstrate a positive self-concept over these areas. They have to have 2 items describing each category. They can use descriptive words. They don't have to all be pictures. each picture has to have the category name with it. I'm not going to grade it unless they've put the category name with it. And this could easily be adjusted to be done paper-based if you're not one-to-one, if you had those magazines or whatever, or they could draw pictures of themselves. And then it's for 100 points total. This is an example of the personality handprint that was on there. So when we're going to start talking about personalities, my students are going to create a personality handprint. And I hang stuff up all around my classroom. If you can see on the wall behind me all those different colored pieces of paper, that's from last year. I didn't take them down. It's things that they've drawn. That was their word of the year. So trace your hand onto the provided piece of paper and then fill in your hand with the traits that describe your personality. I want them to be colorful and creative. So on mine, I like to keep my fingernails painted. So I painted my fingernails and put little polka dots and gold tips and, you know, whatever. Your boys could do no telling what with them. My students really, really love to draw and color. And so I like to incorporate that in a lot. The next one is evaluating your self-esteem. This one has had a bunch of stuff added to it as well. Self-esteem is a big thing. For me, I have a hard time teaching about self-esteem because even though I can sit here and talk to y'all, I could stand in a room with 100 of y'all, no problem. I have a horrible self-esteem. And I have beat myself up this week majorly over all this, like majorly. Especially over the video that had the phone conversation in it. But so there's a lot of stuff added to this one. This is an activity that I do, how I see myself. And so I give my students this is the piece of paper I would give them, and it has a mirror on it. And in the mirror, they write how they see themselves. So for me, I'm short, I'm fat, I have gray hair, I wear glasses, I have dark sunspots, things like that. And then after everyone has had probably 2 to 5 minutes to write information in there, they lay their paper face down on the table, and I go behind them with Scotch tape, and I tape it to their back so that all the other students see is just the blank piece of paper. And then we go around the room and we write only positive comments on there to them. So one of my students said something about, yeah, you say you have ugly brown spots, but you're so comfortable in your skin because you don't wear makeup very often. Now, I don't wear makeup because it sweats off and there's no sense in wasting my money on it. But they were trying to tell me that my skin still looked good even though I had brown spots. And then after we're done, they take them off their backs. They only read the positive comments, and then we wad them up and throw them away. Because we don't want to remember the bad things we see about ourselves or we think about ourselves. We want to remember the good things that our classmates think about us. So that's something I do. And I think I put this in the pacing guide. If your school is picky about paper usage, you could bring in a mirror and have them use their just a plain piece of paper and look in the mirror and write it. And that works the same. The next one is about values and goals. This one has had a ton added to it as well. And where it says exam over theorist, after going back and talking about this and looking at it so much, I would probably still do this here, but maybe in a different format. Like I might have, maybe not give them an actual Google Forms test or something. I might have them to come up with a way to present the information to their classmates, and it be their test to do a presentation. That's just me. Then the next one is all the stuff that we added in, mental health. And I promise you I've added so much to it that mental health is a big deal. I suffer from depression myself, have for many years. So taking care of yourself is a huge deal. And I've shared a lot of links about that in there. I've shared a lot of things about defense mechanisms with it. So I would have my students to make a list of different things that stress them out. And And I have heard parents say, you don't have anything to be stressed about. And I've been out of school 23 years. This is my 23rd year out of school. And honest to God, the only thing I thought I was ever stressed about was algebra and chemistry. But these kids nowadays are stressed over everything. Is there going to be food when I get home? Is there going to be lights? Is daddy going to be there? Is mama going to be there? Are they going to be passed out? Are they going to be high? So our students truly do have stuff to be stressed about nowadays. So have them to talk about these things, what causes them to be stressed, just for them and for their families. And then have them to identify defense mechanisms. What am I going to do if I go home and there's no electricity? You know, what can we do? EverFi has a section about mental wellness basics. So I would have my students do that. There's 2 different places in this class that you could actually do that. It does have a certification at the end of it, but it is not a state approved certification, but it still would show that they've done something. And then it says guest speaker from ACAP or Priscilla. ACAP is the counseling group. Is that what they are? Yeah, the counseling group that's at our school. And they actually pull students out of class to go have their counseling. And that prevents them from having to miss days of school to go meet with their counselor and things like that. And it is very beneficial. And they come talk to the teachers and ask, you know, how are they doing? Is there anything in particular I need to work with them on, things like that. And the Priscilla, she's a counselor at our local doctor's office. She sees some of our students as well, like the ones that their insurance doesn't cover, the ACAP, then Priscilla sees them. And she's very good. And I would just have them, you know, to come in and talk to the students about maybe share some ways to handle stress, you know, things to go over that. And then this is the mental health activity. There's a lot of different stuff that I've added, but this one is the hand again. And inside the hand, you put things that are in your control. So I can control my hair color. I can control my attitude. I can control how I treat other people. I can control my job, because if I'm not happy at my job, I could get a new job. And then outside of the hand is things that they can't control. And these were just things that I just jotted down on there. A lot of times our students try to control things that they have no control over. So seeing, you know, getting them to put it on paper and see that they truly have no control over that helps them to grasp it better. And again, the dates are all messed up, but this is talking about the basic unit of society. There's a whole lot of stuff on this one that you could do. I've added a lot of resources. Now I need one of you guys, because I've put this on Facebook and I've called and tried to find out, but I need one of you to tell me where I can find the Families First program. Is it one you have to buy? Yes. Okay, it's not in the store.
It might be in the resources in the portal.
No.
In your FC, it's not there anymore?
No. I actually called Nationals and they could not tell me.
Huh.
Because I was trying to link it on here and they couldn't tell me. So I think that would be a very good one to do. We put it in here and then I couldn't find it anywhere. So anyways, if anybody can figure out where to get it or whatever, send me a message and tell me. So with this one, I've put like a book, I think it's called My Family Book or something, in to be done. And it gives you like the definition of a nuclear family, and then they have to draw a picture of a family. And then, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that in one of my other classes as their assessment. So we're going to talk about all of them, and then they're going to get this book, and they're going to have to decorate this book, and it's My Family Book. And so it says, draw a picture of your family on the front. Now, their family can be what they consider family when I do this. Because I have some students at my school that they don't live with family. They live with a friend. but that's who their family is right then. When they get to have to draw the nuclear family, they can just, I don't know if that's really what daddy looks like, as long as they can show me what a nuclear family would be. So those are some things in there. Evaluating the changes and challenges that occur throughout life. I think in the playbook, I put a link in there that talks about what mama's role was a long time ago to what mama's role is now. That mama's not just cooking and cleaning and taking care of babies anymore, that she's working and she has a job and she's doing all these other things. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Honestly, this is how far I've made it on the playbook. So I'm still adding things. Addiction is going to be a big thing to talk about. Some of your students are going to have addiction issues already as juniors and seniors, and then their families have lots of addiction issues. So that's going to be a big one. And a lot of times whenever you're teaching controversial or things that can really hit nerves, sometimes your students have to get up and leave the room because they're not ready to deal with something that has happened or whatever. So I always give my students that option. One time in my old school, I was teaching about suicide, and I had no clue that this girl's friend had committed suicide the day before. And she just started bawling, and I was like, I didn't know what was going on. And she just ran out of the room, and they were like, you didn't know her friend committed suicide yesterday. So, it was something she wasn't prepared to handle yet. And we have to be understanding of our students when they get to that point. And then it talks about different community agencies and resources. So over here, I put a brochure. And in this brochure, I would have my students to put different things in there, like how they can apply for food stamps or SNAP, how you apply for our kids, are there any food pantries in our area, where they can go if they need counseling, like some places they could go. And in my little bitty small towns of Glenwood and Amity, there's really not a bunch of stuff. So they would have to expand. Like our DHS office is in Murfreesboro, but I would let them put stuff as far as Hot Springs because that's the closest big town to us. And then when I put this in here, my goal was to have these ready and maybe pick the best one, have someone help me pick the best one, make a bunch of copies of it to give out at parent-teacher conference night for the parents that don't, know where to go to. We have a big population of Hispanics. And so I was going to have our ESL coordinator work with me to get it translated into Spanish as well, to give to those people. So that might be something to think about. A guest speaker of a parent of a child with special needs, have them come in and talk to the class about how hard it is. Well, not necessarily how hard, oh my gosh, what is the word? All of the things they deal with having a special needs child. Like another example, my nephew that I was talking about a while ago. If you go to a restaurant, you're supposed to have masks on everywhere you go now because there's the mandate. Well, he has sensory issues, and he has lots of conditions that prevent him from keeping a mask on. And my sister was turned away from a restaurant because he didn't have a mask on. And so she pulled up some information and said, you can't deny my child services because he has a medical issue that prevents him from wearing one. And then they asked what medical issue he had. And she said, that's HIPAA. I don't have to tell you. And so after this big, huge thing, they were finally let in to eat. So those are things that she has dealt with since he was 2 years old. And people don't understand what parents of special needs children go through. Foster and adoptive families, that's a huge thing in Arkansas. We always need more of them. So if you could research it, if you knew someone that was a foster family, they could come in and talk to the students about fostering. obviously they can't share stories, but they could come in and talk to them about, why it's important, different things they have to go to. Adoptive families are the same way. We talk about foster and adoptive in lifespan development a lot. And one of my really good friends she's currently a foster family, but she has adopted three. Yeah, she's adopted three. She adopted three from foster care. So her and her husband are going to do a video presentation for me about what fostering and adopting from foster has meant to them and their family. So that's something that I was thinking about. So the significance of relationships outside the family. This is the relationships that our students think about most often, I feel like, the relationship with their peers. And they don't understand that there are lots of toxic relationships that go on. So it's important for us to talk about these with them, the importance of friendships. In the playbook, there will be a lot more stuff about friendships and healthy friendships and recognizing, the bad ones and things like that. We do lots of role playing for positive and negative methods of conflict resolutions. I pull names out of a hat and I pull a scenario out of the hat, and then they have to act these out. And sometimes they get 2 minutes and sometimes they get a class period, and then we come back the next day. So it might be like a skit or something that they have to do. And it has been fun. Last year I had some students that were very theatrical, and the door got slammed. I mean, they were really, going at it with mom and dad and student, and someone from the office, because my room is right across from the office, came over and said, "Is everything okay?" And I had to explain, we were just role playing for class. But anyways, here's the Friends scrapbooking project. This one can be paper or Google Slides presentation, or I don't know how many of y'all sat through the Adobe Spark presentation for AtFax. If y'all watched that Adobe Spark one, it was really, really cool, and I've already gone in and created a couple with it that would be fun to do. So you could even do this with a Prezi if you wanted to. That would take a little bit more time. But so the top part is messed up on here. I forgot to put that they would need to put their title slide or page, but it shows on the rubric the correct way. So they do a word wall. They do a word wall that will that'll be the adjectives that describe their friends, define a friend, what qualities do they look for in a friend, compare a friend versus an acquaintance. They a lot of times they don't know how, even adults don't know how to distinguish between a friend and an acquaintance. What would their version of a best friend be? What is popularity versus a best friend? And then what does it mean to surround yourself with people who bring out the best of you? Things that make your friendship work, what things hinder your friendships. He who gossips with you will gossip of you. And then they get 3 choice pages. And these are the ideas for their choice pages. And then it says all pages should include 1 well-written paragraph. And I'll show you the difference about that on the rubric. So on the rubric, first page or first slide would be their name, what class period they're in, and a picture of them. And then that one obviously does not need a paragraph. And then the word wall, my students use Wordle. I don't know if y'all have ever used Wordle, but I love Wordle. And so they would put the names of their friends and then an adjective that describes their friend. And that page doesn't need a paragraph. Do y'all know what Wordle is? Does anybody know what Wordle is? No? Gina, will you hand me one of them pieces of paper over there? Yeah, that one's good. So I don't know if y'all can see this. This is a Wordle. And so interior design and then different things that go with interior design. It's all words that describe, that you could be doing with interior design. So their Wordle would be something like this with their friends' names and all the adjectives. And then it tells you each slide and how much each slide is worth. And that has been shared with you. Aspects of dating and romantic relationships. So you guys are going to have 11th and 12th graders, and a lot of them are already going to be in dating and romantic relationships, even though we don't like to think about them being in romantic relationships at that age, or I don't like to think of them being in there. And so with this one, I feel like it's very important for us to really stress the healthy relationships again. What an unhealthy relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend would look like. Talk about the engagement period, the advantages of using premarital counseling. And one of the ladies that was on this committee helping with these standards, her husband is a pastor, and so they do a session together in front of their class about premarital counseling. And then how you can get a divorce, legal separation, annulments, things like that. So depending on what your class size is, you could do a mock wedding. I did not have a big enough class in human relations last year to do this, but at Falk, when I was there year before last, we had a full-fledged mock wedding. We had the arch, we had the music, we had a bride, a groom, we had groomsmen, I had 26 students in my class, so it was huge. We set up chairs like they would be sitting in for the ceremony. We had the runner for the little girl to walk down. She wore a dress, not a wedding dress, just a Sunday dress. The guy that was the groom wore nice pants and a shirt, and this, it worked out perfectly because they secretly had liked each other for many, many years. We bought a little El Cheapo ring at Walmart, and so she got the ring for agreeing to be the bride. We had a wedding cake. We had sparkling apple juice to look like champagne. We had nuts and mints. We had chips and dip. We had someone that sang. We had it all. It was so fun. We had boutonnieres and bouquets and decorations, and I shared a building with ag, and so they came over and watched. It was a lot of fun. But if you don't have enough people to do that, they can just plan a wedding, and I have shared my rubric for that with you. Research the laws for legally ending a marriage in Arkansas. Research child support and visitation rules in Arkansas. You could expand this. So like at Falk, we were a border city, so we had a lot of students that lived actually in Louisiana or in Texas. So I had them to research those two states as well. So if you guys live up by Missouri or over by Oklahoma or whatever, you could actually include those as well in research, because they may live in that state and just go to school in Arkansas. So here is the wedding project. This is big. It's 440 points. You could tweak this any way you want to. My students used Google Slides presentation. We did not have access to Pinterest at school, so we did it on Google Slides, and they could just find Google images and copy and paste. I gave examples of what each slide would need to have on it, or most of them, so they would have an idea. And like when I told them to create the guest list, I was like, pretend that you're actually going to send this invitation out, and it has to be in proper format. And they're like, we don't know what that means. And so that's what this is. Mr. and Mrs. Brooke Jones, that would be me and my husband and I, and a student, like if it was someone that wasn't married, Dr. and Mrs. whatever. So anyways, on the invitation, I did make them put a picture of it, and then what wording they wanted on there. And some of them chose generic, and some of them wrote their own. Vows, exact same thing. They could pick vows from the computer. They could type their own. The music, now part of them, when they were presenting, they had figured out how to add like little clips of the songs. I haven't figured that out yet, but they could play a few clips of the songs or whatever. So on this project, sometimes I make them draw for budgets, and they have to try to do this on a budget. And then sometimes I let them just go for it and have fun. So that's what this slide 28 is, the final total of what you spent. If they're not going to have a budget, I just want a total. If they have a budget, I redo this and tell them, per slide, they would have to tell me what they spent. We do spend a few class days working on this, but most of the time they have to work on it at home, just because it's an extra project. Now, if I were doing this year, project-based learning wise, this class, there is working on the CTE playbooks, are working many, many hours and tirelessly. And I want to remind you that it's not to be used as a curriculum, even though mine is set up as curriculum pretty much. And Kristen, if she's still on here, hers is set up pretty well too. That's the two that I've looked at. It's not meant to be used as your curriculum. It's not meant to be that you do everything I do in class. It is there as a resource guide for you. So feel free to use those, but also add your own stuff in, because you are in a different area of the state than me. So there's going to be issues and things that are different for you than they are for me. But that's the best I can tell you about the playbook, is that we are working on it. And you should have it before school starts. That is the goal. Again, goal. All right. And if y'all have questions, it's okay. You can unmute and ask me questions as we go. That's perfectly fine, because I don't really see the chat that much. All right. So the next one is talking about the effects of technology on relationships. And students don't always think that technology influences relationships. And so I like to use the example of, and they don't understand really, they don't get it, that 23 years ago we didn't have cell phones, and that my phone was attached to the wall. And so if I wanted to talk to my boyfriend or one of my friends, I had to wait for my parents to be through using the phone. We only had one phone in our house. It was not cordless. We had party lines. They definitely don't know what a party line is. And so I used the example with them that my great aunt lived next door to me, and she was on my party line. And you could not talk on the phone in the middle of the day, in the summer especially, because she was going to be on the phone with her friends talking about Days of Our Lives, Another World, General Hospital, whatever, while they're watching it. So kind of like if we were all sitting in Zooming and watching something on Netflix. So I tell them about how we had to write notes and pass notes back and forth at school to our boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. Nowadays, it's instantaneous. They love that instant gratification. I get it, because I love my cell phone too. But technology has ruined relationships. And we don't communicate as well as we used to, because we send these little short text messages. Okay, be there 5, whatever. We don't carry on full conversations. We don't spell out the words, things like that. Social media, it's very bad on relationships too. So I talk about all of those things with my students. I ask them how many of them have social media accounts. Believe it or not, there are some 11th and 12th graders that still do not have social media because their parents do not allow them to. But it's still important to talk about that. We should be talking about the ways that you present yourself on social media. I don't remember who done the presentation. I think it might have been Sherry Deaton's presentation about branding yourself, about how are we portraying ourselves the same in person as we do online, because it is so easy to hide behind that computer screen and type out something in a haste, in a mad frame of mind that we really wouldn't say to someone in person. And so we should discuss all those things with our students. Maybe pull some examples of, and I'm sure you could Google this and find all kinds of them, different social media posts that have been made that could be negative, that could have been considered the bullying. Believe it or not, bullying is a huge thing. for high schoolers, for adults. Adults are bullies as well. And adults bully students. Teachers bully students. So those are things that we need to be sharing with them. Cyberbullying is a real thing. Talk about with your students the way that they can deal with bullies or bullying. Find out what your school policy is. Maybe it's not being carried out. How does bullying affect families? Different things that you can do. There's activities that I've put on there. I don't know how y'all feel about showing videos at school, but I do show some videos in my class to get the students to understand. You wouldn't even have to show the whole movie, but Cyberbully is a good movie. Wonder is a very good movie about bullying. You could even do a book study on Wonder. Mean Girls is definitely a bullying movie. It's not really school appropriate. As a matter of fact, I called my stepdaughter Regina George last night. If any of y'all have watched that Mean Girls movie, and she's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Never mind." I haven't watched a girl like her. I was just Googling movies about bullying. Audrey and Daisy is a documentary. I watched it this summer. I think it's on Netflix, but I might have watched it on Hulu. I'm not for sure. But it's about two different girls and the bullying that they went through because of alcohol usage and different things that had happened while they were drunk. So it really, really showed things that our students are doing that we don't want them to do. Everfi has one about honor code. It's about bullying, so that would be a good thing for your students to do, especially if we still happen to be blended or digital or whatever by then. It's something they could do at home. There is a link to the Stop Bullying website. How to teach kids to identify bullying. There's different resources and things. I just thought it was a good link that you could share with them, or you could read yourself before you taught this particular area. I do have a pre-test with this. Here is the pre-test, and I did share it. It is in that Google folder. I am going to, when I get finished with the playbook, everything that I do will be in that Google folder, and I will put it on the listserv as well as on the Family Consumer Science, the Arkansas Family Consumer Science page that Stephanie created. I'll put it on there as well. But this is just a little pre-test just to see what they know about bullying. And they know a lot about bullying. They tell you they don't, but they really do. And then a bullying superhero. So I do nutrient superheroes, and I thought I could do a bully superhero. So this says my school district, but you can obviously copy it and change it to your name, to your school's name. We've recognized a serious bullying problem and need a superhero to put an end to it. What kind of person do they need? We could do this individually or with one partner. I have a lot of students that would rather work individually. I don't know about you guys, but some of them would rather work individually because they want the ownership of it, and they don't like to compromise, honestly. But then here's the rubric. Excuse me. Here's the rubric for this particular project. Then this goes back to the second part of that standard 4 that where I told you I had veered off at the first. All of that election and citizenship stuff actually goes with this, but I felt like that it was more important at the first for me. So this part is talking about being concerned with ecology, researching the current trends of recycling, the importance of waste reduction, zero waste lifestyle movement. And I haven't put a lot of stuff in with this one yet. I'm still going back, but this link takes you to what is the zero waste lifestyle. So you could read through this and share this with your students. This would be, of course, by this time they've already competed in STAR events. But if one of your students wanted to do like the public policy advocate or whatever, those, there's like 2 of them, this would be a good website that they might could look at if they were going to do something about recycling. And then if we were going to do this here, of course I don't have a lot of stuff on there, but if we were going to do this here, one of the things we would do would be clean the campus or go clean the city parks. And that would give my students volunteer service hours. Plus it would show them what it means to keep things clean. Because some of our cities have beautiful, wonderful parks, and then they're trashed with litter and things like that. So this would give an example for them for that. Volunteerism. So a lot of students do not like to volunteer. They don't want to do anything without pay. But it's important to get our students to understand what it means to volunteer their time. If your students get 75 service learning hours, they can actually get a high school credit for that. So I don't know how much y'all push service learning, community service, things like that in your schools, but we push it a lot here. Our beta really does. So we have lots of opportunities in our area for students to get volunteer hours. I haven't gone in and put a lot of stuff in this one. I just done just a very small amount, and then as I progress through the CTE playbook, there will be more added to it. But one of the, this is how we wrote it in the standard: participate in a relevant FCCLA STAR event. By this time, they're not going to participate in one because we've already finished STAR events, or about to do state STAR events at this point in time. So it really should say or something. But these are different things: the public policy advocate, your chapter service project, focus on children, national programs and action. And if you are doing project-based learning, and this is something my school is going to do this year to make up for those 7 days that we lost from when our original start date was to when the governor has pushed it back. We normally build our inclement weather days into the calendar. And so what the teachers do is it's a work day for them. So they come to school and work. Well, what we are going to do this year for those particular days, they are called asynchronous project-based learning days. So it's still going to count for us as one of our school days. That way we won't have to make it up. And we have to give them a project. So most of our days like this are a Friday and a Monday. So they would get 4 days, and we're going to assign project-based learning for them those days. So guess what my students are going to do a lot of project-based learning on? STAR events. Because we already have the rubrics created. That's something we don't have to go back and create. We can give them copies of the learning process. This is something they could start on in class and then finish while they are at home doing blended learning or whatever. I am not going to expect them to be to the level of what it would be to compete with a STAR event. I want them to gain the knowledge of how they do the research, how they put it together, and then they will present it in class for a grade. So these are just some of the STAR events that we thought went along with volunteering that would be good for our students. And you could group them and have it like some of our events are up to 3 people. So you could actually put on 3 people in a group and let it work that way. So recognizing the value of relationships at work. The students that are in this class should be they're old enough that they could go to work. A lot of our students don't work, but they could. So they need to learn the importance they need to learn what characteristics employers are going to be looking for, first of all. I don't want someone that's late 3 out of 5 days. And you could look at your attendance with your students and you could say, I wouldn't choose you as an employee because your punctuality is not where it needs to be. You were late 3 out of 5 days this week. What's that going to get you if you go to work at a real job? Probably a write-up, and if it continues, probably fired. Then you could look at attendance as well. Same thing. If your students are missing a whole lot of school, are they going to be a good employee? Probably not. Some of them might. I had some 9th grade boys that they would miss school. If it was sunny, they were going to miss school. And a lot of times they weren't missing school to go play. They were missing school to go work because they had a farm or daddy was a roofer or whatever. So they were actually going to work. But if I was their employer, what would that look like? So their attendance wouldn't have been good. What is integrity? What are work ethics? Students don't know a lot about ethics. What does initiative mean? What is courtesy? Sexual harassment is a big issue. And students don't get it, guys. They do not get it. And I teach this every year. I show examples. They don't get that they can actually get in trouble for sexual harassment. So that's something that really needs to be stressed to the students. Make a list of desired teamwork and leadership skills in the workplace. I have a book. I don't know where it went. Oh, I have a book. It's called Leadership Lessons that I used a whole lot last year with my leadership class. But there's tons of stuff you can find on Pinterest, Google, everything for leadership skills. What are the consequences if you do not follow the rules? What happens? We're going to get wrote up. We're going to get fired. Are we going to be able to get a new job? So this one doesn't have a whole lot added to it. I will add a bunch more in the playbook, but this was just to get us started. I would have my students create a resume. For a lot of them, this will be the first time they've ever created a resume. Very, very simple. I think in the playbook, I put a link to something that was called My First Resume. And it like had little bullets and little points of what should go where. And I feel like, and if I were teaching this class, I would do it. I feel like this would be a good time for you to update your resume as well. We forget about the awards we get. We forget about the things we've done, the new certifications we've gotten. So if you update your resume and you show your students your resume, some of you guys have awesome resumes. I mean, you have some really awesome looking resumes because you've done so much. So that would be a good time for you to update yours, for you to show them how to do them, things like that. And it's not going to hurt. They're in 11th and 12th grade. If they're trying to get a job, it's not going to hurt them to already have that resume. You could also teach them how to do a cover letter with it, things like that. The next one is about the impact of social networking and what it has on professional relationships. And again, I haven't added a whole lot in here. I'm going link or standard by standard, performance indicator by performance indicator, and adding stuff in there. So, but this one thing to think about is what they put on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever those sites are they're using now can still be pulled up and found. If you don't believe me, Google your name. My dad passed away 7 years ago, and I Googled his name, and it pulls up a picture of him. And he passed away 7 years ago. He never had any social media at all. There was I don't remember who I was talking to, but it was someone that I know. And this girl had gone for an interview at a school. She was sitting in the interview with the principal. He is on the computer typing, which I think is rude, honestly. He was typing during the interview. But what he was doing was he was checking her social media accounts. And he found a picture of her in a bikini holding a beer can and a cigarette from when she was in college. And he said to her, he turned his computer around and he said, is this would you want your child learning from this person? And she didn't have kids. And she's like, no. And he's like, is this what we want our students learning from? And they said she didn't have a chance to respond. He said, thank you for your time. This interview is over. She didn't get hired because of things she had put on her social media. So one thing is show them the difference in LinkedIn, which is a professional Social media, I don't know if any of y'all have a LinkedIn account. I have a LinkedIn account, and I probably haven't updated it in like 4 years. That tells you how much I actually use it. A lot of people think of it as they need the LinkedIn when they get ready to go get a job somewhere, because you can do like your online resume and stuff. But show them the difference in LinkedIn versus all of these, and have them to really think about, what they're posting on there. If you don't want to say it to your mama's face, you don't say it on Facebook, Snapchat, or Instagram. If you don't want your mama to see you in that bathing suit or that picture, then don't put it on those social media sites. And I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I have a 23-year-old daughter, and a 19-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old daughter. And well, 3 of them are stepchildren, but whatever. I fight with them all the time about this, how important it is. Well, Snapchat, it disappears. Really, it doesn't disappear, guys. It disappears from your phone, but if it is needed, it can be gotten to. So and all it takes is one person screenshotting that Snapchat, and then what's all over the school or whatever. So those are things to think about. Also, respecting others' values, cultures, and traditions. Our students do not get it. They do not get that we have to respect everyone that's around us, no matter if they're the same culture as us or not. You have to respect them. So that's stuff that I teach about this in every class. I don't care if it relates to it or not. In foods, I'm like, you're going to be respectful of each other. I don't care. I don't care if he can't speak English. You're still going to be respectful to him, because I do have some that can't speak English. So that's how this one would go. I might have my students, they all have, most of them have Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram, but I might have them to create a brochure or something that they could tell me, what types of things you should post on these, what the rules are of them, because there are age limits, and they lie to get their age correct to be on Facebook. There's 8-year-olds with Facebook. So things like that would be stuff you could do with this one. And then this is the last standard in the course. It's about individual career goals. You could do this throughout the course, but I chose to leave it at the end and do a big, huge thing about careers and how a bachelor's degree, a high school diploma, I'm going to have them to compare each thing. My school has the first skilled trades charter school in the state that will be starting this year. So I'm going to have my students do a lot of things about, what types of jobs can you get with skilled trades? What types of jobs can you get? Skilled trade people make a lot more than we do as teachers, guys, a lot more. And we need everybody. We need teachers. We need people with master's degrees, bachelor's degrees. We need people that don't have degrees. We need all that. So we're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. I may do like some aptitude testing with them at this time to see what types of things they like. I think Cooter does aptitude testing. So if your school uses Cooter, you may already could get access to that. And then I'm going to have them choose a career. So I do this same activity in facts, in lifespan development, in foods. And now I'm going to do it in life, fitness, nutrition. But so if I do it in foods, it's only careers related to foods stuff. So chef, sous chef, those types of things. In facts, it depends on when I decide I want to do it. Sometimes it's for any career. Sometimes it's just on the one we've been talking about. Lifespan development, it has to be something related to childcare. So for this particular class, because we talk about so many different things, and they're juniors and seniors, they need to be figuring out what they want to do with their life. We're going to create a career lap book that's based on their choice of career. And this is what the rubric looks like. And give me just a second. I'm going to get an example for you because I'm at school today.
While Ms. Jones is getting her examples, I wanted to just go ahead and let everyone know that you will see that I have posted the Google form link for you to complete to get your PD credit for this 2-hour session. So before we close this session, please open that link, at least so you have it opened on your computer. You don't have to fill it out right now. You can wait. If you will try to get it filled out by about 6 p.m., that would be great so that we can start working on those certificates.
Amanda, real quick, there's a chat. What do you do about students that have been placed in this course by the counselor and haven't taken lifespan development or maybe not even facts? I teach at a very small school and foresee this always being an issue with my counselor, and we have that question a lot. You want to talk to them about that?
Sure. So, it's gonna be all about us making sure that they are informed of the new guidelines that we have. If you take them a copy of the new programs of study, it is very specific and tells about the different levels. With new Perkins 5, it's part of accountability for Perkins funding now. So you have to take courses in order of specificity, which means that, our courses are building on knowledge, and we wouldn't want to take, Algebra 2 before we take Algebra 1, and it's the same concept. So we're just going to have to, in a professional way, inform our counselors and our administration. They should be starting to get that information about how, before we hoped that they would kind of follow our courses in a specific the levels, but we know that they did not. But now it is written into our Perkins accountability. So we are going to have to ensure that that's happening, as well as we are getting students prepared and equipped with credentials for, after they leave us. So that's where our certifications come into play. So it's going to start with us just giving them that knowledge that it now is a big piece of our Perkins 5 funding.
Do we have a transition year for that, Amanda?
If you're starting a new program of study and you have to get one group of students, your juniors and seniors, the courses that they needed to be a completer previously, then yes, that's where that transition piece comes into play. However, we don't want to start, for example, our freshmen, our ninth graders or our 10th graders, and jump them to the level 3 course right now, like maybe we used to, before. But if you've got a junior or a senior and they need a particular course so that they can be a completer, then most definitely you can offer that to them so that they can still be the completer. So we are still going to be using the old programs of study to grandfather in those juniors and seniors that were on a different track previously. But
Okay.
we need to be making plans and transitioning into the new programs of study for your underclassmen.
Right. And my counselor and I had a huge discussion about that this week. And I think we got it squared away. I mean, we had some, and I mean, like they said, in a small school, you're always going to have some that have to have somewhere to go, and there's nothing else for them to take that class period. And I told her, I said, if it's one or two, I would be okay with it. But if you start giving me 30 kids that haven't, so,
Well, and I think though in the future they're going to have to.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to, and
Right.
so if it happens, even if you're supposed to be offering, if you have a program of study and you're supposed to be offering dynamics of human relations
Right.
relationships as your level 3, and then you decide, oh, we're not going to offer that next year, you're going to have to get a letter, get approval to
Right.
not offer it.
We didn't have any kids sign up for it this year. I should be offering it, but because we left in such a haste when they were doing all their student choices, I didn't get time to actually talk to them about it. But my principal is going to write a letter. Jessica's already documented it, but he's going to write a letter to send to y'all just so that we're covered for that.
Yes.
So that we know. Is it still, and this is not pertaining to this particular thing, but I just want to ask this while it's on my head. Is it still where anyone with a master's degree can teach the pre-educator classes?
I believe it's any licensure code can teach. Yes, they can teach the pre-educator program of study. So all of the program of study.
Okay. Well, I'm not giving up lifespan development, but I'm fighting. I'm starting the first day of school fighting to get a second full-time fax teacher at my school. Because we need it this year. I really need it this year, but there's no way I can right now. But we're trying right now too. Wink, wink, wink. But who knows? But I feel like if we can have 3 ag teachers and 2 business teachers, then I definitely have enough. I have enough students. When I have 27 in foods, 27 in life fitness nutrition, 27 in my other life fitness nutrition, I definitely have enough students that want my courses for a second fax teacher. So I am fighting for that. But anyways, that's just, all right. So I found my examples. Actually, I found examples of a couple of other things too that I thought I would share with y'all. See, I haven't been here since March, so I didn't have all this stuff at home that I would have, but now it's going to go home with me. So this is, I hope y'all can see this. Okay, this is a career lap book. Sorry, my orientation to teaching student, one of mine done this. So where it says the education, or the cover is your state, the career choice. So she put elementary teacher. This is hard to read backwards. Elementary teacher. She decorated it, so it's definitely colorful. The career cluster, is that what that says right there? I can't read it. It's backwards to me. Yeah, the career cluster is education and training. So what, in the directions where I tell you that you want the flap, so if I was going to be, like y'all are reading this is the flap without the tab. And if you fold it down, you can read. She actually wrote hers backwards, but you should be able to read it. So on the inside, she put her picture of a teacher. And then I really want the information written the other direction, but it's okay because she done a great job. She was one of my favorite students, and she left school. But she has included all the information in here that it asks for. They do not have to handwrite it. They could type it and paste it on there, but she done an excellent job on this. I miss her so much. She was so good. Felicity. She really wanted to be a teacher, and she had an oops and is going to have a baby. So here's another one. She wasn't quite as creative, but photography. And then she done her picture. And then she wrote her information the same way. So what I'm going to do this year when we do these is I'm going to use these two as examples. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to create another one. And I'm going to say, this is the direction the information should be written. So if I'm reading it, I don't have to flip it back and forth. So that's what a career lap book looks like. You could do it many different ways. There was a thing on one of the presentations I was on. It was bearbooks.com. I don't remember whose that was on, but I looked at that website, and it's very, very cheap, little blank white books that you could get, and you could have your students do so many things with. This is another project. It has not been put on there, but it is going home with me today. So it's gonna be put in there, I promise you. It is called The ABCs of Adulthood. This class is a lot about adulting. So this would be something cute you could do as well. And so they had to have something for every letter of the alphabet. And I do have a rubric for it. So like this one said, A is for acceptance. You know, in adulthood, we have to be accepted. B is for babies because we have babies in adulthood. They done this one, I think, in child development parenting when it was still that. C is for contraception. And this little girl was funny. She drew a card that would symbolize birth control pills for her contraception. So you could do something like that for all about adulthood. What they've learned in this class that is going to apply to adulthood. Since I'm not teaching it, I don't get to do this, but one thing I would add, and I wish we would have had a way or could have put it in the standards, was personal finance stuff. Because I feel like some schools still teach personal finance in family and consumer science under that department. Some schools, like mine, we do it in our civics and economics class. And I don't feel like they're getting enough information in there. And when I get to go back and teach this class, I'm including it next year. Yeah, I'm including it next year, even though it's not in my standards for this. I will include it because our students are juniors and seniors and they need to know about that stuff. Here's another one I will upload for you guys. This is it's just an example, and I had it here at school and I did not have it at home, so I couldn't tell y'all about it. And y'all may have done this in other classes. It's my family totem pole. These are hard to see, I know, but so totem poles are actually collections of symbols that represent whatever tribe you were in or things like that for the Native Americans. And so there's a paper that goes with it that's the different symbols that you could use and what they mean. I have the rubric for it. So this would obviously be an individual project. It would not be for more than one person. I have suggested materials and instructions, and then I have this little paper with it. It's the story of their family totem pole. So this would be good when you're talking about the families, that you could use it in that section as well with that standard. And then I don't think I have put it, don't think I told y'all about it or put it in this one, but you could do a family tree project. I know I put it in the playbook, a family tree project when you're talking about your families. And someone said, well, that's kind of could be controversial because of our student situations. If your student is living in an adoptive family and they don't know their biological family, I encourage them to do their family tree based on their adoptive family, because their adoptive mom's parents become their grandparents. That's the grandparents they know. If they are living in foster care at the time, they probably still know their biological family. So I do that. And if there were extenuating circumstances where I felt like that student really could not do that, then I would figure out an alternative assignment for them. This is another family project. I will upload it as well, but it's, there's 7 different assignments in it. And it, like, assignment 1 asks about your birth. And so it's like, ask your mom, dad, or a family member about the day you were born. I had my kids do this with, I think it was an AMI assignment last year, but like, where did they get your name from? So for my daughter, she laughs, but her first name came from a cashier at Walmart. I went to Walmart the day before I was going to have her, and I did not have a first name picked out, and I liked the cashier's name. So I chose that name. And then her middle name is from my grandmother. And then they have to write a birth announcement, just different things like that. It gets them to have to talk to their families, which is a lot of what our students need, is having to interact with their families. And I encourage them to not ask these family questions via text message, like actually have to do it. I had one video herself doing basically the interview last year, and it was really good because it made her have to sit there with her mom and dad and talk to them. So that's a couple of other ideas I had. And I guess that's it. Does anybody have any questions, suggestions?
Before everyone, starts to leave, make sure that you have filled out the Google form if you're wanting PD hours. And I'm posting the link one more time. Here we go. Just posted it in the chat. So please open the chat and get that form before you exit this meeting. Sorry about that, Kim.
Oh, that's okay. I will get everything. Just give me a few days to finish the playbook, and then I will get all the resources put over into the Google Drive and share it again, so that y'all have access to that.
And I think that some of you are asking about the playbook. So they will not be put out over the listserv. They will actually be posted to the Department of Ed or the Division of Career and Technical Education website. So, and we will we can put out a message saying that they're up on the website and they're posted, or send you a link to them once they are posted. So everyone, please be patient with the playbooks, because teachers, your fellow teachers like Kim Jones, are working their tails off to create these resources for you. And it's not real nice of us if we're putting pressure on them. You want it to be a usable document. They are making it for themselves, also. And so they're putting a lot of information in these resources, and some, like Kim's, not even getting to teach the course that she's creating this playbook for. So please reach out and thank these teachers that have put in their summer hours, unpaid summer hours, to create these resources for everyone to use. We appreciate everything that they are doing, and the last thing I want us to do is make them feel pressured to hurry up, because when they are putting in their heart and soul into these resources so that you can use them. So please, if you know one of the teachers that are creating these playbooks that are going to be put up for all of us to use, please thank them, and let's be positive and know that they have spent summer hours to do these for us.
And Amanda, they did ask earlier which of our courses were going to be in that. Do you want to?
Okay, so all of the courses except for, I don't think life and fitness nutrition, it's not on the list. Advanced, let me look at my program of study. Let's see. advanced nutrition and dietetics is not going to be. And I think that those are the only ones that are not included on the playbooks. However, life and fitness, nutrition will be one of the courses that is being created through Virtual Arkansas. But that, again, that one's going to take longer. I mean, that's developing a whole online course. So just understand that this is a process that we have jumped into, and we have found some of, the most amazing teachers like Kim that we know are have all of these resources created, or is wonderful enough to help us create these resources. So please know that it's a work in progress, and that as soon as they are finished, then they will all be placed at the same time out for you to use as a resource.
Tiffany Holloway asked about the Google Drive link. If you go back to on the AtFax list, the list that Molly sent out beside my presentation, there's a link to my Google Drive, or on the Facebook page that Stephanie Ramsey created. It's on there as well. I'm not for sure where it's at on there, but it's on there as well. And I think that Drive updates as soon as I add something new to it. I think it's adding it in there. But as far as on the pacing guide, I haven't put everything back over to the pacing guide, because I'm putting it in the playbook first, because I've got a deadline for it, and the pacing guide deadline for me at my school is totally different. So Stephanie said, look under the topic dynamics of human relationships, and you should find the link to that Google Drive. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting that on there. So if y'all click on that, if someone looks at that and it doesn't look like it's been updated or doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it, please send me an email so that I can see what's going on with it. So Stephanie, can you give Caitlin the Facebook page name?
I think it's Arkansas Facts Teachers Collaborate.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Yes, I will post a link. I'm grabbing it right now.
Okay.
Stephanie, thank you for that too, by the way.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions?
So I caught the very end of, we're talking about what to do about the MOS certification. And I know you said work with your business teachers. What extent do we, what exactly, how do I go about doing that? What's y'all suggestion on that?
So for what I would do at my school, and of course I'm not teaching this year, but if I were teaching it, this is what I would do. I would see what students have business, and then I would ask that business teacher, are these students getting MOS certification? And she makes all of hers go through it.
Yeah,
So,
ours do too. So cross-reference, and then maybe let the handful that haven't, see if they'll let them slide in.
in TAC, you can actually click on your students, and then you can see every class they take. So you would be able to know which ones are taking business. So you could ask her, ask your teacher. They might not be a female. Ask them if this student has already had, did they certify? Maybe they certified in 10th grade for them. So that would still count, because that certification is still good. So you could ask ask that.
I think we have a running document that everybody keeps. So
You may.
I just didn't know, at first in my head, I'm picturing having to ask, can all of my students go in their room? And I was like,
it doesn't have to be done in the business classroom. My understanding is that you can actually do it in your classroom if you're one-to-one and you have computers. If you don't have computers, they may have to go in there. But my school is 1-to-1, so I can do that in my classroom if I need to. And I don't know, I didn't click to the very last slide on my presentation, but I have reserved the month of May. I have reserved the month of May for getting ready for certification. And then I kind of done it based on if we have to go home and then I need to come back and do a little bit of refreshing or whatever with my students, I have that extra leeway time so I built it in for pretty much